Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by Mata. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I'm joined by Boobesh Ramadurai. He's the head of Marketing Analytics Center of Excellence at Leighton View Analytics. He brings over 20 years of hands-on experience in analytics, digital marketing, and data visualization with a proven track record in helping Fortune 500 clients enhance their marketing and capabilities. He is definitely the perfect person to help us better understand how marketing has evolved in the age of AI. Boobesh, thanks so much for being our guest today. We're excited about this conversation.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for having me here, Tessa.
And it is sort of serendipitous because, as we were saying before we got on the call, we actually met at the Marketing AI Institute conference, Beacon.
Yeah.
So that
conference and yeah, it was amazing to meet you there.
Yeah. And great content last year. I'm sure it'll be more great content this year. And just between then and now, so much has changed. So before we jump into what's changed, what trends you're seeing, the guidance you want to give marketers today, first, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I have been in the analytics field for over a couple of decades now. I started even before analytics became a buzzword. At that point in time, we were working a lot with the financial services organization because that is where they had data, they were storing data, and they were using data to enable the business decisions. We were kind of building models for them on upsell, cross-sell, who are the customers who will pay up in time and who are the customers who lapse and all that. Fast forward now, every industry has been capturing the data and using the data to drive business decisions, and it has given me opportunity to work across different sectors. Lately, for a decade or so, I've been based out of Bay Area, so making use of the location and working with a lot of tech lines here. In fact, having a front row seat in terms of their growth and all the product innovations that they have been making, especially in the tech sectors. And especially, I have been focusing a lot more on the CMO's organization and building domain-based data and intelligence that can help the CMOs in their AI journey.
That's awesome that you get a chance to work specifically with tech companies. It's always exciting when you have like that shared passion with your clients. So when you have this front row seat, how have you seen the role of marketing analytics evolve, especially over the last 3 years?
Yeah. The biggest difference that I saw while working across different sectors and more specifically in the tech sectors is how much they use data to drive their marketing decisions, right? Marketing has always been considered as a very creative function where they come up with what is the next big campaign, what is an idea to promote their brand, and which are the new channels that they can target and use to reach to their customers. But especially when it comes to measurements, these tech companies, I felt like they are way up there in terms of measuring everything. It is not only the creative function, but also the finance function in a way, kind of both the creative aspect of it and the number aspect of it comes together, and how sometimes numbers drive the creativity. And that we have seen over the years, a lot of different sectors have started using it. Every company is right now having a marketing analytics team that is measuring every initiative that is being done by the marketing function. And that is something that I have noticed over the last decade or so. And increasingly, with the whole AI that is coming in, everybody realizes how much of this data is important and how it can actually drive not only the measurements, but also the what kind of campaigns to focus on or what kind of channels to focus on, some of those aspects as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that is a very big evolution. I remember, back in the day, that's what my kids say whenever I'm talking about something longer than 5 years away. Creatives didn't appreciate or thought it was kind of stifling to put measurement and metrics as goals as to like, this campaign needs to do that. Or it was even perceived that performance marketing was less creative because it was all focused on call to action. But today, especially with the advent of AI, the type of data you can pull out is more diverse and is inspiring when you can not just see that this ad got this click-through rate and generated this amount of conversion and sales, but you can actually see what type of customers responded to it, what is the overall sentiment around it, what other signals or behaviors can we pick up from the space in which it was delivered. You get a better idea of the context of the customers. And that's, like the holy grail to great creative, is understanding deeply what is the connection that I'm making and what's the context in which these target audiences and my customers are receiving this message.
Yeah, no, you are spot on, especially after this performance marketing came in and everybody starts focusing on the numbers, like how many clicks that I have, how many impressions that I have, how many click-through rates that I have, and all of that. And they try to optimize it for the near-term benefits that the marketing team is able to have. But the important piece of the marketing function, where the creative people and people in the marketers who operate as kind of content that can come with it, right? And we all know content is a king. And 70% of the campaign is successful because of the kind of content that is able to resonate with their target audience. And that is where the creative part still lies and takes a front seat. And increasingly, with the advent of AI, we can see that the creative can be augmented with AI, and not really everything has to rely on the responsibility of the human who is a marketer involved in it. The marketer can use a lot of AI right now to come up with the right content by looking at in terms of what are the past content that has resonated well with the users, what aspect of the content has resonated well with the users, and how do I replicate and refresh that a lot more and bring it to my users, right? So I think that is where, outside of just data being very structured and looking into likes, impression, clicks, and other metrics, it can also augment on the content that can resonate well with the users.
Yeah, and that might be an opportunity for marketers who maybe haven't taken that step yet, is broaden your definition of data and really start to think about how can you build that bridge from how well campaigns have done back into creative so that they can have a platform to ask deeper questions to better understand the audience.
Over the last 3 years, I have seen a lot more because of the role that I have been playing. I've been part of a consulting organization that kind of has an opportunity to work across different sectors and different accounts and the clients that we do. The kind of questions that they have been asking us have drastically changed. Before, it was all around, hey, I'm going to run a campaign and I want to know in terms of which is the best channel to use. Then more around, in fact, you know what, I have a couple of ideas. I want to test out these 2 ideas and see which resonates more with the users, and can you help in terms of measuring and tracking all of that. Then it is more around, I have been having the same campaign being launched in multiple channels, and I want to know which is a better channel to focus on. To more around now, in the recent times, it is more around in terms of, I want ideas in terms of what kind of content resonates well with the users. And can you look into all of the content that we have done in the past and give me a suggestion in terms of that again goes well with the brand, in terms of what is the language that they want to use, what is the color palette that they want to use, and what kind of culture that they want to resonate well with their audience. Incorporating all of this, can you come up with a content recommendation that I can use, and which can do an A/B testing, right? So those are some of the interesting questions that is coming in. And there is a lot of that is changing in the SEO space as well. And I'm sure that you are aware of some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we jump into, because that's a major shift, what's happening in SEO, before we jump into that, those are some big questions that I don't know if people would have thought to ask that in the past, or it would have, because it probably would have taken too long. Like, give me content recommendations, what's performing the best. Like, I remember asking those of business intelligence teams, and a month later, there was an analysis that came back. So how are you using AI to help answer those questions more efficiently and even at a higher quality?
In fact, that's a great question. I think every organization have been doing this. Every organization has been asking these questions, and there is an insights data team, or there is a partner that they work with. As you said, I run a campaign in January. The campaign ends in February. I go and ask my data team in terms of, hey, is this a campaign is successful or not? What is the overall outcome of this campaign? And only in April or May, I get to see the results of whether the campaign that I ran in January is successful or not. which means like I have already lasted 3 to 4 months. And then I am this the either the success or the failure of the January campaign is not anymore relevant for me, because I have gone into Q2 and I'm focusing on in terms of what is the campaign that I'm going to launch in July, right? So there is so much, and especially in this era, there is so much that is changing on a week on week basis, especially if it is a month on month and a quarter on quarter. It's a lot of lost time which we can capitalize on. That is where there is a lot of data integration that has come in, a lot of products that is out there, and we have built a solution which can integrate all of this and kind of give you real-time solutions even at a channel level or at across omni-channel level, for a particular campaign that has run, and especially with the whole advent of AI and the data capturing mechanism, you will be able to see the results of January right there in the first week of February itself. When you're running the campaign, you know on a day-on-day basis how the campaign has been performing across different channels, what is the ROI that you are able to bring in, and what at the end of the campaign, you know what kind of creative resonated to which set of segment of customers, which particular channel, what particular day of the week kind of resonated. All of the analytics kind of packaged in one applications right now and provided to the users, which kind of cuts a lot of time delay by going to the data analytics team and they working on the data engineering team and coming back and all of that. The data is becoming democratized right now, and the marketers can directly go and ask the channels and the performance in terms of how things have been performed.
And I think that's really important, the democratization of data. But I could see where maybe the business analytics team feels like that's a bit threatening to their job or to their expertise in interpreting data and pulling out the insights. But I know, as well as you, the more we have collaboration, consolidation on shared resources, where we're all not using these individual apps, even if they are driven by AI, the more efficient, the more productive, the better the results. How do you lead that type of change to bring people along so they're not feeling displaced by necessary momentum forward?
I think we are still a long way on that path in terms of replacing, because the market is evolving rapidly across, even within the marketing function. If you think of it, there is channels that is getting added on a daily basis. Before, we used to do a lot of events, which is off channel, and then there is a TV, and then the whole digital came in, and then we started doing a lot of Facebook ad, then it's Instagram, then it is Snapchat, Pinterest, there is LinkedIn, there is tons of channels that is still need to be explored. And for the last 3-4 years, it is all about influencers marketing, creative economy, those kind of user-generated content is a lot more that is being focused on at this point in time by many brands. So there is tons of channel that needs to be integrated, and especially when an organization or a brand thinks of getting into a new channel, there is a whole body of work that is being involved in terms of getting the data, setting up the platform, putting some advertisement dollars behind it, deciding in terms of what kind of money needs to put in for the ROI that you can put in. There is a whole framework, and there is a lot of work just around the channels. There is a lot of work that can be done in the content perspective, which is still vastly unexplored, and it is generally done only by the marketing and the agencies right now. There is a lot of things that can be done through AI on the content part of it. So there is enough work which is out there, and when we go into customer segmentation and some of using the advanced analytics AI on in terms of the next best actions, which are the customers which is going to have a higher customer lifetime value. There is so much work that is still yet to be done for any organization, and AI is enabling us to do some of the easier tasks like reporting and dashboarding automated, so that the analyst can focus on some of the advanced work that they can enable to move the business forward.
I agree. And I think when companies have a big enough vision and you start to think about what we all need to do to meet that vision, then you're not as threatened by the use of AI. And I would say if someone is threatened by the use of AI, go back and say, is there an opportunity for us to drive growth through efficiency? And if you have not deeply explored how efficiency actually drives growth and scale for your company, then you're missing some opportunities to really level up your career and level up your use of the technology in general.
Yeah. So fair point. And in fact, if you think of it, we are still talking about efficiency and productivity gain when it comes to AI. But there is a lot more which is yet to be uncovered in terms of the revenue enablement, right? Or the new areas to look forward, the new innovation that is going to come in. I think we are still in the space of how do we make this more productive, more efficient. And once we are able to reach there, then we will be able to stay on top of it and look in terms of where are the new revenue generation opportunity that is out there for us.
Yeah, and a lot of companies I've seen take that step approach. Like first, we're going to become more efficient. We're trying to automate all this admin stuff, and then we're going to go into what cool crap can we do. And then after the coolness, then we'll think about, what does it drive from a growth perspective. But I was at the Forrester conference, and there was a stat that really struck me, and it was around why some people are resistant to change in AI and then why others aren't. And it's simply that they're becoming overwhelmed and that there is, in fact, more change happening today than ever before. I think the exact number was 186% more change. And that's overwhelming. And I think sometimes when there's too many options, it makes us feel like we got to narrow it down and go step by step. But I would also say that gives us an opportunity to delegate and have multiple initiative tracks run in parallel, and that you almost have to keep up with the rate of change that the people you're serving are going through, your clients, your end customers. And that's all people solutions. That's not AI. So again, I'm going down a tangent here, but we started with, what happens when analysts or really any role starts to become threatened. And what we need more than ever are humans and leaders who know how to navigate change. And there's no scarcity in opportunities to step into that role.
Yeah. No, that is true. I think this has been true whenever there is a new revolution that is coming in, right? I know that maybe by now everybody is aware of that AI is being compared to the internet world, when kind of internet came in, when every paper media or all of the finance team, when they were doing work in books, they were threatened saying that, oh, this books is being treated into digital format, and now I need to learn computer, or now I need to learn a new medium. It is kind of resistant, but the good part now is the AI is not that alienated, right? We have all been used to it in some form or fashion. For example, in most of the houses, there is already Google Home or Alexa that we have got used to. The searches that we are doing, we have got used to it. The YouTube videos that we saw in terms of the recommendation, in terms of, hey, how do this system know that this is a song that I like, and I'm able to listen to that even before we going and searching, right? So in a way that we are all have gotten used to it. The consumer AI has already been in the mainstream now, and slowly and steadily we have been adapted to the consumer AI part of it. As long as it helps me when I'm driving the car, I don't need to pick which song to listen to or which podcast to listen to. It knows by itself. Or while I'm in the kitchen, I'll be able to ask questions and it is able to provide me answers, so that I don't need to deviate my attention from the stove, and all of that is great. Now, when it is kind of hitting the enterprise AI, we all feel like, oh, maybe there is a big shift that's happening, and how do I get adopted to it? I'm sure very similar to how we got adopted to the consumer AI, we will get adopted to the enterprise AI as well, and all of the shift that is happening at the business. The good part about it is still very early. It is still super early stages, even though we feel like the change is like more than 100%, but it is going to get standardized over time. And by the time enterprises start using it, we will all be the masters of AI in a way. And the baby steps that we have to do is we have to start using it on a daily basis, so that we get adapted to in terms of how to use it, for what we have to use it, and what are the use cases that it does better than us, better than each individual in a way, right? There are a few things that I know that I am better than AI, and there are certain things that I know that AI is better than me, for which I will always go back to.
Yeah, it's funny because I've heard some people say like it's not there yet, or this specific app can't do things as well as I can. And it's not about waiting for it to be perfect. It's about looking at what's a more effective and efficient way to solve problems and come up with solutions. And one solution that has certainly created a problem is GEO, or the behavior that consumers have very quickly learned to use language models and even just look at the results that Google puts at the top of the search engine results page that's generated from AI, as opposed to what we're used to, which is clicking on links and going to websites. So I know marketers are becoming more and more concerned as their traffic drops or they're not getting as much visibility because, you know, there's this term out there, zero click, and what does it mean? And how can I measure my influence in zero click? How are you helping marketers navigate this challenge in new space?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And in fact, it kind of ties back to the question that you asked in terms of how individuals have got so much adapted to the consumer AI, but not so much on the enterprise AI, which is what I think that Google is slowly and steadily getting all the enterprises to get used to it. So they are not making the shift on a single day. They are saying that, hey, so far, any search that you do, we used to list out a bunch of links, and these links will take you to the respective website. And now I'm going to start introducing prototyping the small AI generated information. And the AI generated information is going to serve some of the questions that you have been asking for. And for certain other questions, I'm going to still send you to a respective links. But that is Google. If you go to ChatGPT and do a search, or if you go to Perplexity and do a search, it is all AI generated that content that is coming in, right? You're not really seeing the links for the respective web pages. And in fact, I saw a report where especially the Gen Zs, they are using a lot more generative engine than the typical SEO search engine that we have been used to. And even though Google is still a bigger player, in fact, there is a report that came out which says that they used to process close to like 5 trillion searches on a weekly basis, which used to be like only 2 trillion. So in terms of the market of search engine is increasing. There is still a lot more jobs and work for all of us when it comes to the SEOs. But how the SEO is kind of changing and adapting AI to it, which is the whole generative engine optimization that kind of comes in. And now all the organizations and enterprises are figuring out in terms of how do their brands and their product kind of shows up in this generative engine summary that kind of comes up either in the Perplexity or ChatGPT or in the Google Gemini is going to be a upper battle to solve. It is still a very early stages. There is not a lot of companies that have actually thought about this generative engine optimization, very similar to a search engine optimization, but that is a new trend that we are all going to see over the next 6 to 18 months in terms of how companies are going to adapt their website and adapt their content and product and communicating their brand and product in this new era. It's going to be a very interesting space to look at. And just like you, I'm equally excited and seeing in terms of how all of this plays out.
Yeah, I think it will be, you know, it's just a new challenge. Like marketers always have a new challenge. Like you said earlier, there's always a new social something launching or a new platform that everyone has to be on. And if anything, this gives us an opportunity to get creative about how we deliver value to users and not necessarily on our website. And I think it can really, for the better, impact the role of the website to elevate beyond just pictures and blogs, because I think it was getting kind of boring optimizing for blogs. You know, it's like people who got really good at SEO. I don't know if all of that content was super high quality or if they're just really good at SEO. And now here's a new challenge that's saying, hey, quality, level of engagement, the type of sites that pick up your content, like what type of influence your content actually has, is all going to matter when you're doing generative engine optimization. And that, you know, is is a new bar to kind of not only reach, but leap over when you think about that you can also use AI tools to help in that content generation. But to your point, it gets you up to like mediocre. If you just use generative tools to create your content, you're not reaching or exceeding the bar of high quality, high influence, high value. That is where that human power is going to come in and really starting to think about how it reaches your consumers at a time when they need it.
Yeah, no, that is very true. I think to completely agree to your point, which says that marketers never run out of challenges. There is always tons of challenges that is out there that the marketers feel like, hey, there is a step up that I need to do in terms of how to reach my content to the right audience. In fact, one of the recent exercises that we did for one of the client, we figured out that, as you said, there is a lot of emphasis that goes on blogs all this while in terms of how do I make people come into my website through the content that I post in my own website. That shift is kind of moving a little, especially when it comes to the generative engine, where it is not only picking the content from your own websites, but it is also picking the content in terms of some of the marketplaces out there. For example, what is Forbes talks about your products and your brand, or what is Wall Street talks about your products and brand. And there may be a lot more weightage that is being given to some of these publications, and which is where it might be important for all of us to start working with the PR firms a lot more and say that, hey, you know what, I want my content and my brand to be featured in many common newsletters and forums that is out there rather than in my own website. And this, we feel like in the initial part of this analysis, we feel like your brands and your product, if it is being featured in some of this forums and blog articles by the third party, that gets a lot more eyeballs when it comes to generative engine than the typical search engine that we have got used to.
Yeah, and I know we were saying before the call, some of the smaller brands are sort of feeling the pain from that. They're not getting as much visibility. But they do have the opportunity to do PR and or I would say what are other channels of influence? Because the reason the bigger brands are getting picked up is because they are doing PR, they are investing in getting PR people who know how to get them into those large channels. But I think that's where, in general, there's so many diverse channels with so many different levels of influence that sometimes you have to figure out as a brand based on our values, mission, and where we need to reach. All you have to look for is how are we getting external validation? That is why those sites are so important, is because they are external sources validating that what any one company is saying is true or meaningful. And again, that's another fun problem to try and solve, like finding your niche, finding your audience, those authoritative sites that can really add those critical points of validation to your brand and your story.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think we are all trying to figure out in terms of how this generative engine by Perplexity or OpenAI or by Google, how it is picking up the content. It is still a mystery box for everybody. But the only way for an organization to know in terms of how to get featured is through different trial and error, through A/B testing and learning from the industry experts in terms of how they have been figured out. And I'm sure that just like any other search engine or any other recommendation engine, it is going to keep evolving and it is going to keep changing. That is the whole fun of this role in terms of being a marketer, is you always need to keep up in terms of what's changing and how it is changing and how do we adapt our brands and strategy towards it.
Yeah. And Boobesh, we have covered a lot in our time. We started with marketers, giving them advisement to start building that bridge from their data analytics team into marketing to provide brands more context that really fuels content generation. We talked about how AI is playing a bigger role in that creative content generation. The better I understand my audiences and the more connected I am to different types of data, I can personalize that content. I can deliver it on more diverse channels using AI diversion. And then we also talked about the challenges that we as marketers are facing, but to find almost comfort in the fact that AI has been here for a while. We're using it in our daily lives. And really, this is just giving us opportunities that our brands have not had in the past to connect with consumers in more and diverse ways. And of course, we talked about GEO. And I agree. People should be investing in more PR. I always thought PR was like a fantastic tool. We have an amazing PR department. It's just, it's all about storytelling, which has always been one of my favorite parts of marketing. And that helps you really crystallize the vision and not only add that external validation, but bring other people along, which is one of the most important things in true AI value, is that your internal organization is aligned and is using AI in a manner that provides scale and measurable value back to the business. So having great PR is more than just like getting on credible sites. It is about internal alignment and having that guiding star for all decision making. Before we go, because this has been a lot, but are there any more trends that you're really looking forward to as gosh, it's already April, which is just nuts. But anything else you're looking forward to seeing in 2025 or beyond?
Yeah. No, thanks. This is a great summary. I think you kind of picked the most important point in the last 20 minutes of conversation that we have had. This is great. In terms of what to look forward is, I think there is a lot that is going to happen. And in fact, I just saw that Sam Altman over the weekend, he just said that there is few more new launches that they are planning, and which is going to blow up everybody's mind. We still don't know in terms of what it is. We just saw from a note from Google that how the generative engine is changing the search engine place for them, even though they are still the market leader, especially at the different segment of customers. They say that Gen Z, they are losing it. They are moving into more different search engines like Perplexity or OpenAI searches, some of that. So that trend has been changing. And brands have started to look at in terms of how AI can help in their content generation, not only in terms of measuring and reading out, but more in terms of what are the new ways to create content. In fact, the Adobe Firefly is a great example for that, where the brands are able to come up with their own content by using some of this. And as you said, it's only April, and we have another good 8 months to go in the year, and there is plenty of action that is waiting. So don't get overwhelmed. Start focusing on the small use cases that you are currently working today, and how that can be automated and used by the agentic AI, and take help from the data team. I'm sure we will all see through this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. And if listeners have questions for you, where can they find you?
They can find me in my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is very simple. It's LinkedIn at Boobesh. So you'll be able to find me just searching by my name. And by God's grace, my mother has given me a unique name. So it's very easy to find me.
Yeah, my name used to be unique, and now there's like a bazillion little Tessas running. It's such a bummer, but no, I'm kidding. And we will also have this episode on our website. So if you want to find the spelling of Boobesh's name or grab the transcript for this, you can visit us at modop.com. That's MODOP.com. And underneath podcast, which is in the Vanguardian, off the menu. We have other episodes that explore the impact of AI, digital transformation, change leadership, all the tools you need to elevate your company, their measurement and use of data for context and content generation. And Boobesh, thanks so much for joining us. And maybe I'll see you again this year at MACON.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.